During the Three Kingdoms era, where life and death on the battlefield were separated by mere inches, physical strength wasn't just an advantage, it was a matter of survival. A skilled general might not always win, but one who possessed both talent and strength could turn the tide of an entire battle. Strength wasn't just measured by strategy, but by arms that could lift 1,000 pounds, by legs that could march hundreds of miles without rest, by sword swings that shook the entire battlefield. So who possessed the most formidable strength during the Three Kingdoms? Who was the true war god, the one who didn't need cunning tricks, but whose lone charge on horseback could send entire armies trembling? In today's video, we bring you the ranking of the 6 most powerful warriors of the Three Kingdoms. Not hearsay, not embellishment, but names preserved in historical records and praised in legend. Warriors whose every blow was enough to rewrite history. Join us as we uncover who truly deserves the top spot among the mightiest fighters of this chaotic era. 6. Xu Chu. Among the top names in our list of the strongest warriors from the Three Kingdoms, from Xu Chu, the pillar of Wei, to Guan Yu, the icon of Shu, and Lu Bu, the undefeated war god. One name at 6th place brings a different shade entirely. Xu Chu, not a great general, not recorded in official histories with glory, and not famed for epic battlefield exploits. Yet his sheer physical prowess and near-superhuman endurance earned him lasting recognition. Xu Chu is the embodiment of strength, not defined by achievements, but by raw, awe-inspiring ability. Xu Chu served as a subordinate of Zhang Xu, the young strategist, who once brought Cao Cao to a standstill. While Zhang Xu was noted for his cunning, Xu Chu was his arm of brute strength. Though few war tales mention him, his name arises consistently in discussions of warriors whose physicality exceeded normal human limits. Legend says Xu Chu could lift 500 jin, around 180 kilograms of weight. The average man could barely budge even for seconds. But to him, it was a regular task. Even more remarkable, he was said to have marched 700 li, roughly 350 kilometers in a single day, a feat near impossible even for elite war horses. These claims, while sounding mythical, point to a kind of strength and durability far beyond the norm, the kind that only 1 in a million could possess. Xu Chu was one of those rare few. But Xu Chu wasn't just strong, he was a symbol of survival. In the brutal campaigns of the Three Kingdoms, the strongest man wasn't always the one with the deadliest blade, but the one who could endure walk farther, suffer longer, cross mountains and rivers without falling. That's why he was valued not for fame, but for being the physical backbone of his army. He could carry the load of 10 men, lift what others couldn't, and stand firm when conditions turned hostile. From the lens of ancient philosophy, Xu Chu represents heaven-given divine strength, a natural gift not learned through martial arts like Zhao Yun or strategy like Zhuge Liang. He lacked the royal charisma of Liu Bei or Cao Cao, but he possessed what all of them needed in long campaigns: inexhaustible human power, a rare asset that only reveals its true worth at the edge of exhaustion between life and death. Xu Chu left behind no glittering legacy of victories, but history is not only written by the victorious, it's upheld by those who keep the war machine moving, like Xu Chu, not basking in glory, but forming the foundation beneath it. He didn't strike fear into enemies with his name, but inspired deep respect from fellow soldiers. For they knew when their strength ran dry, Xu Chu would carry the burden forward. Perhaps his greatest virtue was humility, in an age where the strong often used their might to dominate. Xu Chu served in silence. He sought no titles, waged no political games. He was the symbol of restrained strength, a rare moral force in a time obsessed with victory at any cost. From a sociological view of warfare, men like Xu Chu were indispensable. Without them, war chariots wouldn't move. Camps, wouldn't rise, weapons wouldn't be carried, escape routes wouldn't open. His place in this ranking is an acknowledgement that strength isn't just for combat. It's a foundation for survival. Hussar ranks 6th, not because he lacked physical power, but because he wasn't bathed in battlefield glory. And yet this very absence of fame defines his essence: strong without striving, capable without boasting, essential without demanding recognition. Hussar stands as a silent pillar, the kind of man whose absence would be felt far more than his presence is praised. Thank you for staying with us through this journey, exploring the superhuman strength of 6 legendary warriors from the 3 kingdoms, each of them from Xu Chu's loyalty, like a stone mountain, Lu Bu's unstoppable storm, Guan Yu's righteous might to Dian Wei's silent steel, Zhou Cang's honest force, and Hussar, the unseen strength-bearer, carry not only physical power but timeless stories and virtues. So now we ask you, who do you believe deserves the title of the strongest warrior of the 3 kingdoms? How do you define strength? By muscle alone, by battlefield prowess, or by unwavering spirit? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We're eager to hear your perspective. And if you found value in this analysis, don't forget to hit subscribe and ring the notification bell so you won't miss upcoming videos where we'll dive deeper into untold stories, overlooked heroes, and the lessons they still teach us today. Thank you for watching. See you in the next journey. 5. Zhou Cang came from humble origins, once serving under Zhang Bao, son of Zhang Jiao, leader of the Yellow Turban Rebellion. After the uprising collapsed, Zhou Hong wandered across the rivers and lakes of China. Thanks to his innate swimming ability and God-given strength, he became known throughout the region as a man who could lift 1,000 pounds, run 100 miles without tiring, and fight wild beasts barehanded. Folk tales describe Zhou Cang as imposing with a black face, shaggy beard, tall frame, broad shoulders, and muscles that rippled like forged steel. Just standing in a military camp, he gave soldiers a sense of security, because wherever Zhou Cang stood, defeat was unlikely. The story of how Guan Yu took Zhou Cang under his wing speaks volumes about the latter's exceptional strength. Guan Yu, famously selective in choosing his subordinates, had turned away many other talents. But when he met Zhou Cang, he immediately recognized the sincerity and raw power behind that rugged exterior. Without any elaborate testing, Guan Yu entrusted him with important duties, a testament that in the eyes of a great general, pure strength combined with loyal character was more valuable than polish. Zhou Cang's power wasn't just physical. It shone through in the impossible missions he completed with ease. On one occasion, he was tasked with delivering an urgent message, a journey that took him through forests, over mountains, and across 3 major rivers, all in a single day. An ordinary man would struggle to finish such a task, even on horseback. But Zhou Cang, on foot, drenched in sweat, completed it without complaint, steady of step, eyes clear and utterly dependable. His strength wasn't for show. It was for service to his comrades, his leader, and his cause. In battle, Zhou Cang was described as a black panther, silent, swift, and deadly, wielding a heavy mace. Each strike brought down an enemy. He wasn't flashy like other warriors, didn't rely on clever tricks, nor sought to prove himself. He simply advanced, struck, and protected, and that was enough. Among the Shu soldiers, he wasn't just a comrade, he was a living wall, the one you turned to when chaos erupted. From a philosophical view, Zhou Cang represents strength without ambition, steadfastness without show. He sought no titles, claimed no glory, and followed Guan Yu to the very end. When Guan Yu was captured and killed in Jing province, it was Zhou Cang who held his lord's body and wept until he could cry no more. In an era when loyalties were easily bought and sold, Zhou Cang was a reminder. Righteousness doesn't need high status. It can grow in rough, honest hearts as solid as the earth itself. Physically, Zhou Cang fully deserves a spot in the ranking of the strongest men of the three kingdoms. His arms were like storms, his endurance rare, his toughness equal to the most famous warriors. The ancients once said, if Xu Chu is stone, then Zhou Cang is black, iron. It can be forged but not bent. His strength wasn't mythical, it was earned through toil, discipline, and a life of hardship. Zhou Cang also embodies quiet perseverance, a symbol of those who, despite lacking fame or rank, contribute endlessly to a greater cause. He may not have spoken in political councils nor been praised in poetry like Guan Yu or Zhao Yun. But in terms of fighting spirit, endurance, and loyalty, he was second to none. And sometimes it's men like Zhou Cang who form the backbone that keeps an army standing. In the ranking of the strongest warriors of the three kingdoms, Zhou Cang sits at fifth, not because he was weaker, but because he never needed to stand higher to prove anything. He represents humble strength, strength without name, without reward, living only for what's right. And in an era filled with deception and schemes, that is perhaps the most valuable power of all. 4. Dian Wei, the fierce general famed for his extraordinary strength, was so trusted by Cao Cao that he was tasked with quelling chaos, guarding the Lord in times of peril, and securing critical strategic points. Unlike Guan Yu, who entered history under the glow of righteousness, or Lu Bu, who burst onto the scene like a storm with epic duels to his name, Dian Wei was quiet but terrifying. He didn't need grand speeches. His very presence on the battlefield stabilized his troops and made enemies hesitate. People once said, where Dian Wei stands, it feels as though 10,000 troops stand with him. Legend has it that Dian Wei wielded a pair of iron halberds, each weighing 40 jin, totaling 80 jin, or about 30 kilograms today. These weapons weren't just heavy, they were long and unwieldy, requiring tremendous arm strength and balance to wield effectively, especially on horseback. Yet, in Dian Wei's hands, they moved like slender bamboo swaying in the wind. In one pursuit, Dian Wei alone on horseback with twin iron halberds pierced through enemy lines, cutting down foes as if slicing vegetables. His crimson-stained armor a fearsome sight. This wasn't the act of a mere mortal, but an image seared into the memory of every soldier who fought beside him and every enemy who faced him. His strength wasn't just for offense, it was essential in maintaining order at the rear when generals led charges. In times of chaos, internal rebellion was often more dangerous than enemy troops. Only someone with both overwhelming might and moral authority could keep such threats in check. Cao Cao once said, "To calm an army of 100,000, I need a man like Dian Wei." This shows that Dian Wei wasn't just a weapon. He was a pillar of discipline, the true gatekeeper of Cao Wei's forces. A famous story in the records speaks to Dian Wei's loyalty and decisiveness. When Cao Cao was ambushed by rebel forces, Dian Wei shielded him with his body, killing over a dozen attackers and securing his lord's escape. Wounded and bleeding, he didn't groan or complain, staying behind to cover the retreat. That moment moved the hearts of many soldiers and cemented his legend as a guardian deity in human form across the three kingdoms. From a philosophical lens, Dian Wei represents the archetype of the stoic warrior, steadfast, powerful, and deeply grounded. He did not boast, threaten, or exploit his strength. Instead, his power was tied to a spirit of service and unwavering devotion, qualities that set him apart. In an era where many used force to seize power, Dian Wei used his strength to uphold honor, a gentleman's path few had the courage to follow. One apt comparison: if Lu Bu was a wild beast from the deep forest, then Dian Wei was a disciplined war tiger, powerful yet able to distinguish right from wrong, knowing when to advance and when to retreat. He didn't need the grand accolades of Guan Yu or the legendary aura of Xu Chu, for he was the backbone of the army itself, someone whose absence would cause the entire system to crack. What kept Dian Wei from greater fame wasn't a lack of ability, it was that he didn't seek it. His quiet nature was proof of his true strength. He was powerful but never used it to build his image. He was loyal but never demanded recognition. He was present yet asked for no attention. And that's why his name continues to be remembered as a symbol of inner strength, endurance, and quiet, deep-rooted valor. In the ranking of the physically strongest generals of the Three Kingdoms, Dian Wei rightfully claims fourth place, not because he was lesser, but because he embodies a humble, steady, and enduring form of strength. A kind of power that didn't just defeat enemies, but held the foundation of an entire empire in place. 3. Guan Yu born into a time of chaos. Guan Yu quickly revealed a presence that set him apart. From his first appearance in Romance of the Three Kingdoms, he was depicted as a towering figure. 8. Chai tall with a two-chi beard, phoenix eyes, and silkworm brows. A striking appearance that radiated dignity. But what truly immortalized him in the hearts of generations wasn't his looks or aura, but the Green Dragon Crescent Blade, a weapon that symbolized his entire life. This blade weighed 82 jin, around 30 kilos today, a weight that when wielded to slash, thrust, and sweep through hundreds of rounds in battle without faltering, proved that Guan Yu was no ordinary man. Unlike many other warriors who wielded spears, halberds, or axes, generally lighter weapons, Guan Yu chose the saber. And not just any saber, but one twice as heavy as typical weapons of his time, that required not only extraordinary arm strength, but also extreme finesse, balance, and body control. Mastering such a heavy blade alone placed him among the strongest warriors of the Three Kingdoms. But Guan Yu went further. He turned that physical strength into a vessel of righteousness, a sword for justice, and a shield for the moral order. His most renowned feat was the slaying of Yan Liang, a top general under Yuan Shao, amidst tens of thousands of enemy troops. At a moment when Cao Cao's forces were helpless and morale shaken, Guan Yu alone mounted his red steed, raised the Green Dragon Blade, and charged directly into the enemy camp. In a single stroke, he beheaded Yan Liang and calmly withdrew as if nothing had happened. This wasn't just bravery, it was a display of unmatched speed and power. To break enemy lines close in on a fierce general, kill him in an instant, and exit unharmed that required not only superhuman agility but also a level of endurance far beyond normal limits. Yet Guan Yu was not just a fierce warrior, he was a man of principle. That's why his strength didn't inspire fear but respect. When he captured Cao Cao at Huarong Pass but chose not to kill him, it wasn't out of weakness but out of righteousness, to honor a past debt and repay a kindness once shown to him. In a time when power dictated life and death, sparing one's enemy wasn't cowardice, but the highest declaration of inner strength. However, that very righteousness could also be a double-edged sword. Zhu Liang once warned that though Guan Yu was brave and skilled, he might not be suited for political responsibilities, as his rigidity could harm strategic alliances. And history proved this. After being entrusted with Jing province, the vital buffer between Shu and Wu, Guan Yu made moves that strained the alliance. Though he triumphed at Fancheng and sent Cao's army into panic, he was ultimately ambushed by Eastern Wu, captured and executed. A man who once made the world tremble fell not because of weakness on the battlefield, but because of missteps in the grand chessboard of power. Philosophically, Guan Yu was an ideal but imperfect figure, a war god who carried the banner of righteousness yet was also bound by it. His strength was real, his loyalty was genuine, his ambition noble, but his rigidity just as undeniable. He was powerful but not adaptable, like Zhuge Liang. Valiant, but not flexible like Cao Cao. As such, he remains forever a revered icon, yet never the one to decide the fate of the three kingdoms. Still, when viewed strictly in terms of physical strength, the focus of today's ranking, Guan Yu undoubtedly deserves a high spot. His endurance was exceptional, carrying a 30-kilo blade on long marches without rest. His martial skills were honed to perfection, his control in battle absolute. He rode war horses, swung his blade, and slew enemy commanders in the thick of combat without flinching. This was power that didn't need embellishment or propaganda. His actions themselves were a silent declaration of what it meant to be a true warrior. To Lu Bu, Xu Chu was the immovable mountain, the stone pillar of loyalty in a turbulent age. Then Lu Bu was the raging storm, a blaze of red fury burning bright amid showers of arrows and spears. In today's video, we aim to illuminate the portrait of the man once hailed as invincible under heaven. A warrior who not only possessed overwhelming strength, but also embodied the arrogance, ferocity, and tragedy of an era soaked in blood. From a young age, Lu Bu was already a rare phenomenon. He was described as tall, imposing, with lightning in his eyes and unmatched strength. His weapon, the legendary Sky Piercer halberd, weighed nearly 24 catties, as noted in some historical sources. Yet, in his hands it moved like silk, fluttering in the wind. With just one sweeping strike, enemies before him scattered like dry leaves in a storm. His mastery in mounted archery, dual wielding, and leaping across fortress walls reached a level few could rival. Among all the warriors of his time, none combined courage, strength, and speed the way he did. But what made Lu Bu's name echo through history was not just his strength. It was his invincibility in battle. The famed Three Heroes versus Lu Bu duel, where Liu Bei, Guan Yu, and Zhang Fei joined forces to defeat him, is the most vivid example. For dozens of rounds, they attacked in turns and still couldn't bring him down. Lu Bu fought alone, holding firm, unleashing counter-strikes that kept even the legendary trio at bay. Had the three sworn brothers not coordinated seamlessly, it's possible Lu Bu would have emerged victorious. Thus, Lu Bu's power couldn't be measured in sheer weight or brute force alone. It had to be assessed by his ability to command the battlefield amid chaos, to remain unshaken while hundreds of spears and thousands of arrows rained down. Not everyone strong can stand firm, but Lu Bu did more than stand. He made others tremble. His very presence was like thunder from the heavens, and enemy troops often disbanded in fear before a single clash began. However, where Xu Chu stood as a model of righteous strength, Lu Bu symbolized strength without a guiding ideal. This marked the line between two types of generals. Lu Bu was loyal to no one but himself. He once served Ding Yuan, then defected to Dong Zhuo, later killed Dong Zhuo to side with Yuan Shu, then betrayed Yuan Shu to join Liu Bei, only to abandon Liu Bei for Cao Cao. These shifts weren't just political stains. They were proof that strength without ideals is easily manipulated and quickly squandered. Even so, Lu Bu's significance in history cannot be dismissed. In a time where winners became kings and losers became bandits, loyalty, justice, and integrity didn't always hold absolute value. Lu Bu might have been unpredictable in allegiance, but no one denied his might. Even Cao Cao, a man of schemes and deep insight, was wary of Lu Bu. That's why, when Lu Bu was finally captured, Cao Cao ordered his immediate execution without hesitation. Keeping a warrior that powerful but uncontrollable was like housing a tiger under one's roof. The true tragedy of Lu Bu was not that he was too strong, but that he didn't know how to use that strength wisely. A man who could terrify armies of 10,000 couldn't even secure a single stronghold, build a lasting force, or win hearts. He had might but lacked stability, skill but not strategy talent, but not vision. That was Lu Bu's greatest downfall, born to be a war god but never fit to be a king. From a historical, philosophical perspective, Lu Bu is a powerful lesson on the limits of strength without reason. Like a sharp sword without a sheath, he was prone to harm even those closest to him. While figures like Zhuge Liang and Guo Jia used wisdom to steer the tides of war, Lu Bu relied solely on brute force and ended up a pawn in a game he never truly understood. He didn't lose because he was weak. He lost because he couldn't unite people. Still, in terms of pure physical power, the focus of today's ranking, Lu Bu deserves second place without dispute. He was overwhelmingly strong. His combat skills were unmatched, his reflexes lightning fast, his endurance formidable, and his dominance absolute. In ancient history, few individuals could exert an invisible pressure just through their presence, and Lu Bu was one of them. His greatness then lies not in what he kept, but in what he displayed in each battle. Lu Bu may not have succeeded politically, but his name is forever etched in the war-torn memory of the Three Kingdoms, like a raging whirlwind, fierce, furious, fleeting, yet unforgettable. Xu Chu in the history of the Three Kingdoms. When it comes to raw physical strength, the primal force that could crush chaos and strike fear into hundreds of soldiers, no name surpasses that of Xu Chu. People often speak of him as a brawny general, but to judge him only by his bulging muscles while ignoring the depth of his loyalty, decisiveness, and strategic role under Cao would be a grave misunderstanding. Xu Chu was not just a warrior who could drag horses, lift elephants, or swing weapons weighing hundreds of pounds like toys. He was a living symbol of ideal strength, not for killing, but for protecting, preserving, and altering the course of battle. From his very first appearance in historical records, Xu Chu astounded people. In one famous passage from Romance of the Three Kingdoms, he single-handedly pulled 2 fully grown oxen, each weighing nearly half a ton backward for over 100 steps. A man who could haul more than 1,000 pounds without breaking a sweat or showing strain was clearly beyond ordinary mortals, a symbol of divine strength. Yet, Xu Chu never bragged, never treated it as a feat. He offered that strength in service of a just cause for Cao, to whom he was absolutely loyal, down to every breath. In an era when loyalty was often exchanged for power, Xu Chu remained unwavering. On one occasion, when Cao was ambushed, only Xu Chu dared to stand alone and shield his lord within the enemy's encirclement. He slaughtered dozens, carved a bloody path, and brought Cao out of certain death. Later, Cao said, "Many generals follow me, but without Xu Chu, I would have died in the wilderness." The survival of a political genius and the very foundation of an empire once rested in this man's hands, a silent war god whose actions thundered across the heavens. Xu Chu's power lay not just in his physique, but in his spirit. On the battlefield, he was the first to charge and the last to retreat. Once in a duel with Ma Chao, a famed warrior known for his strength, Xu Chu stood his ground and forced Ma Chao to retreat, unable to overpower him. This proved that he was not only strong, but enduring. Not just tough, but also smart. He knew when to strike, when to defend, when to use brute force, and when to apply tactics. This wasn't the behavior of a brute solving problems with muscle alone, but of a true general one, who understood that war requires both strength and intellect. What's admirable about Xu Chu is that he never exploited his strength for glory or reward. Despite many achievements and Cao's favor, he remained humble and careful. That modesty was his spiritual armor, protecting him from the arrogance that tainted many generals of the time. For this reason, Xu Chu earned not just the respect of Wei's army, but also the praise of historians who regarded him as a model of loyalty and moral uprightness. From a strategic standpoint, Xu Chu was like a living fortress for Cao. In chaotic times, a ruler needed more than clever advisors. He needed someone powerful enough to ensure safety. Without Xu Chu, Cao wouldn't have dared to personally command on the front lines. Without Xu Chu, the discipline within Cao Wei's army would have faltered more than once. A warrior like him was not just a weapon of war, but a spiritual pillar, a moral anchor amid blades and schemes. Culturally, Xu Chu represents the archetype of the righteous brute, someone who used strength to uphold principles, muscles to protect justice. In feudal society, where intellect was praised and physical might often dismissed, Xu Chu's image affirmed the essential role of physical power in maintaining social order. He forced later generations to reconsider strength and intelligence should not be separated. They must be combined to serve a greater cause. Xu Chu's story is also a lesson in loyalty. He never betrayed, never surrendered, never wavered before power. In a time when treachery was common, staying loyal to a person and a cause was the most precious thing Xu Chu embodied, that no flowery oaths, just actions that proved everything. No need for written records. Posterity still reveres his name as an unshakable monument of loyalty. Looking at the big picture, if we were to rank the strongest generals of the three kingdoms, no one deserves the top spot more than Xu Chu, because he had not only extraordinary strength, but also unwavering spirit, steadfast loyalty, and tactical intelligence. In a turbulent age, he was like a stone pillar amid a raging flood, never falling, never cracking, always ready to shield others from danger. Among all warriors who've walked through history, few have left such a complete image as Xu Chu. Powerful without arrogance, loyal without blindness, strong yet still principled. He is living proof of a simple yet profound truth. Strength only becomes valuable when placed in the hands of one who knows how to control and use it for a greater good. In today's world where intellect is increasingly admired and physical vitality often overlooked, the story of Xu Chu serves as a reminder. A strong body isn't just about survival. It's the foundation for shouldering great responsibility and defending what one believes in. An ideal society cannot do without people like Xu Chu, those who may not deliver grand speeches, but whose every action carries a clear message. Strength exists to serve, not to dominate.